Today, we're going to talk about the 10-step buyer process. And we're going to go over this. And this is according to Ninja Selling. So if you've gone through that or read through that, I'm going to share some of those thoughts and a combination of some of my thoughts. I'll be the first one to tell you that I don't do this buyer process every single time, right? Sometimes I do when it's called for, sometimes I just don't. I think you to know the information, and then all of a sudden, like I showed a house the other day to a new client, and because I've done it enough, I've pretty much did the buyer process, but because I kind of knew the right questions to already ask, right? So I didn't like technically sit down with them and do every single step. And you'll notice as we go through these steps, some of them you can kind of combine. Some of the questions you might even skip over. So this is just a good starting point as to, okay, I have a client that's interested in buying a house or buying property or whatever. We want to make sure that we not only take care of them for that deal, but we want to build and get to know them better on a personal level so that they become a lifelong client, right? And a lifelong referral partner. And they go from our warm or hot list to a client to a database member, right? They're now part of our sphere. And that's the whole idea, is not to just go, okay, I did a deal and I never talked to them again, right? The four greatest fears that they talk about, right, for a buyer, and I'll sit down with a client. Let me go ahead and just show this to you. I'll sit down with them and I'll have a packet, which we'll talk about in a second, but I will print this out. So this is the 10-step buyer process that I wrote out kind of in a Cliff Notes version, again, of Ninja Selling. You can find it in the back. And somebody's trying to join. I think I need to take that off next time. Anyways, I think we're good. But I'll sit down and I will use this piece of paper so that I don't forget anything. And I will also write notes on it. All right. So I have it printed out and I'm taking notes and making sure that I don't miss anything from them. But bottom line is I talk about the four greatest fears as a buyer. All right. Number one is losing the home. All right. And we'll talk more about that, but you have to kind of educate them, explain to them, hey, we're in a crazy market right now. And it is slowing down a little bit. So it's not as competitive, but we're going to have to be pretty aggressive. And there's certain ways we can do that with the offer, which we'll talk about later, to make sure that we don't lose on the house that they really want. The second one is missing something, right? They don't want to miss that house that might have been perfect for them. We're going to talk about how we're going to capture all of the homes in the areas that they want, that they are interested in. All right. Paying too much, right? They don't want to overpay. Well, the reality of that right now is you may overpay, and hopefully you don't grossly overpay, but we are going to provide comps for the properties that they're interested in, all right, and making sure that, hey, you're not really overpaying. This is actually a pretty decent price, especially for the market right now, or you're getting a great price, or this is way too high, and you're going to be the most expensive house in the neighborhood for like the next 5 years, all right? And I've experienced all of that in the past 6 months, right? We just got a house that, had a great price on it. We jumped on it, and it came back and the appraisal was $15,000 over, and I was like, awesome, and then other people, I'm like, hey, I know you want to go 20K over to try to win this, but you're going to be severely overpaying for that property in the neighborhood. So they just need to know that information. And then something wrong with the house, right? We're going to talk about obviously the inspection. So most of y'all know these things, but as you start working with more and more buyers, you're going to realize that there's a lot of people out there that don't have any clue as to what's going on. All right. And that's what I find is not only am I an agent, right, and helping them buy or sell, but I kind of go back to like, I'm an educator, right? And of course I come from an education background, but a lot of times I found myself educating that person or the public about the process, right? And what to expect. So let's jump right into it. The meeting, all right? So you can either set up a time and place to meet in person, phone or Zoom. All right. Either one of those is good. Ideally, in person would be great. Um, but if they're busy, they take a phone call. And you don't necessarily have to meet. Again, every situation is very different. And again, the longer that you're in real estate business, you go, okay, I've done so many deals, but almost every single one of them was a little bit different, right? So just kind of judge the situation and figure out how you best want to approach that. I have somebody right now that wants to buy a house. She's set up on a search. Everything's going well. She's liking properties. Of course, they're going really quickly. Um, but we haven't set a time to like really discuss and narrow down the process. So that's a perfect opportunity for me to set up a time to meet. All right. This can happen at showings. Sometimes you might be doing like a cold call, or some random person from Facebook Marketplace ad wants to meet you at the house. All right. Well, go meet them at the house. If they want to go see that house, don't go, wait a second, we have to have a meeting before we go look at a house. Like, use the opportunities to go to the house, get them to look at it, and then start those conversations and start asking those questions that we're going to provide you here. Right. So it's okay to do that. Plan for about 30 minutes or so if you're like actually setting up a meeting. It can take longer, especially if you're in a social environment. The last one I went to, it was at a bar, downtown. And it was like, hey, you want to get a drink? Yeah, I bought him a drink, right? And so it's just, it loosened up everybody, and it was more of a social thing rather than a business meeting. So it just depends on the client. And dress professionally, but not over the top, and dress for the occasion, right? If you're going out to an outdoor bar with your friend that's now becoming a client of yours, you might dress a certain way. But if you're showing a $500,000 house to a businessman, you might dress a certain way. So just be smart about that, and make sure that you look professional. The greeting, a lot of these, all the titles come from Ninja Selling. Most of this, and but I always find that if I give my name, then typically I receive theirs, right? I don't know. There's just something about going, hey, what's your name? Compared to, hey, how are you doing? I'm Tony. All right. And they automatically respond, and it's more welcoming than to pry. And then try to remember their name. And I'm really bad at that. All right. Really bad. And one of the good ways is to try to connect that name with maybe somebody you know. All right. But there's different tricks out there to remember their name. But it goes a long ways if you can remember everybody's name and call them by that. Greet them with a smile and good eye contact. Like be confident. All right. That's super important. They want somebody that's confident and what they're doing. Ask them how their day is going, and you're just building rapport. All right. Even when I greet somebody as they walk into an open house, hey, how are y'all doing today? Just real small talk, build that rapport, get them as comfortable as possible, as quickly as possible. Sometimes they have kids with them. All right. They're running around, they have a kid. Oh, what's your daughter's name? Oh, what's your son's name? Show interest in them. All right. And that's going to help them, especially if it's the first meeting. All right. It's going to start breaking down that barrier. I met a new client 2 days ago, and it was a little standoffish at first, but by the end, it was like, thank you so much, blah, blah, and it's just those communication skills are important. Ask them where they're from. Are you from here? Found out this guy was same class as me, but he went to Clark High School and I went to MacArthur High School. So we didn't know each other, but we have this bond of, hey, we're the same age, we graduated around the same time, etc. So all those little things. Ask good questions. I'm going to pause real quick because I don't want to continue to talk and talk and talk. I'm going to ask any of y'all, do y'all do anything like this? When meeting with a buyer, do y'all have a process? Does anybody have a process of like asking questions and getting to know the client better? Yes, no, maybe so. Telling you, this is more fun when there's interaction, I promise you. but
Okay, I'll go. I just had or did I freeze? Okay, there we go. I just had some friends that I kind of put it in their ear, they might want to sell and then buy closer to their jobs and stuff. And I had gone to a training about a buyer consultation. So I took they had like a little worksheet kind of thing, and I edited it because they're my good friends. I don't need to ask, how many kids do you have, whatever.
Yep.
So we kind of we're kind of joking around about those questions and like having fun with that. And then we got into like the nitty gritty, like what are you looking for, and kind of went into that more serious, like I'm going to be working with you guys now mode. And I thought it went really well. And they felt that shift of like, yeah, we're really good friends, but let's talk about business now, and let's find you a house and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I absolutely, thanks for sharing. I think when you have a process like this, I think you're viewed more as a, hey, this person has their shit together and they have a process and they're not just winging it. All right. Even if it's not, again, my process is not identical to this. All right. I don't do this every single time, but if I find the opportunity to do it, I do find a better connection with that client. All right. Whether I've known them a long time or whether they're an acquaintance or whether I don't know them at all, as I go through this. Just something to think about. Anybody else have anything to share that in their experiences? Jim, you've done some deals. Have you done anything like this? Maybe Jim's not listening. I see him talking.
Can y'all hear me?
Is that Brad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm out and about. It might be a little windy, but I don't have a lot of experience, but I'm right on board with everything you're saying. Like, I like the ninja process a ton. But like you said, in a couple of these I've had so far in my short career, like it definitely seems extremely valuable on the buyer side to go through some form of a process to help streamline the process. Like if you get in that like Keller book, they shy away from the buyer side because of how inefficient it can be. And I think that's what that ninja process is really about, is not wasting your time, not spinning your wheels, trying to get everything in order so you don't fall into the really common pitfalls of buyers just constantly not being able to decide or opening things back up. It really helps you narrow your process and be more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing. And I'm actually in the middle. I just started the Gary Keller book, the Red Book, right? And I'm just starting to get into the nuts and bolts of what they do. It's interesting. I mean, obviously it's different, and I'm not saying it's bad. It's just different, and I think they both have value. So thanks for sharing. I want to remind everybody, as we're doing this from week to week, please jump in and ask a question or share an experience. I think we will all get more out of this when we share experiences rather than just hearing my voice talk the whole time. All right. So I'm going, hey, I just wanted to, hoot and holler about my new deal, right? I got a closing at 4:00 today, and I have a new closing next week, and those type of things. Like, I think we feed off of that. So let's keep that up. I appreciate it. We'll go on here, and then we'll have a little interjection whenever that comes about. Number 3 in our list is called the buyer interview, and it's all about asking questions and listening. That's really the whole approach to the ninja selling, right? Ninja buyers interview looks like this, and I don't like it. I'm gonna be honest with you. So this is like the direct buyer's interview from Ninja Selling. Yeah, I definitely skip over some of this, but like the first one's good. What's your living situation right now? Right? You in a apartment, you're in a space. Okay, cool. I know you're not too bad. So maybe it's Brad. I don't know. But and then number two, how long have you lived there? How many beds and baths? Sometimes I ask this question, but not exactly like that, right? You find out what it is. Okay. Oh, you have a small place. Yeah, you have a dog that really needs a good sized yard. And you just pick up on that as they're asking questions. All right. So sometimes I'll get to this and like, oh, well, I already know the answer to that question. I'm just gonna skip over it, right? They go on how owned a home in the past, when you bought your current home, what was the process? I, I don't worry about that too much. That's just me, right? Are you familiar with the process of buying a house? This is a great one, and we're going to get into that in a second, um, etc. But I created this all about you, and it actually came from, I'm drawing a blank on her name, big time. Oh, Carmen Bean. Carmen Bean is a huge individual agent with EXP. I'm pretty sure she brings in like 700K a year, just her husband, and one assistant, I think. And she swears by Rick Tankersley. Like she started with Rick and she didn't sell her. I talked to her at one of the trainings and she goes, it took me 8 months to sell my first house. And here I am 6 years later doing this, being awarded for one of the top agents in San Antonio. But she's like, I went to Rick's trainings and I did what Rick told me to do. And so she of course she's adapted to things and she has an all about you. So I created my own. And, obviously the name, but something um
Hey,
yeah,
hold on. Yeah, hold on for a second, Tony.
Yeah.
Everybody has to mute their line. Daniel, your mute your line. It keeps blocking out what Tony is saying. There we go.
Yeah. Thanks, Eli.
Much better. Okay.
So the name, obviously, you probably already know their name, right? In the greeting, but you will want to ask them what their legal name is because you're going to need their legal name on the documents, right? So make sure you get their legal name, their address. You're going to need that as well for legal documents. Their cell phone, you probably already have that. Skip it if you do. Email, if you don't have it already, you need to get it. I like to follow them on social media, all right? And so they follow me on social media. Their birthday, so they could be a part of your birthday campaign. You could send them something during that time. And significant other's name, all right? I put that because maybe they're not married, all right? But a spouse's name and their contact information, right? Because you're gonna have to get them to sign things if they're purchasing it together. Same type of stuff. An anniversary date, if you're doing a birthday and anniversary campaign, that's good to have. Their children's names and maybe how old they are, maybe their birthdays as well, right? To set up that birthday campaign once again. Any pets they might have, all right? And what I find is these things down here: favorite restaurant, favorite hobby, favorite store, food, sports, adult beverage, snack. Those are all kind of odd, but it gives you a perfect things to buy and put in their basket for closing, right? I mean, like, oh, this is everything I love. Thank you so much. This is great. All right. And they love it, so it's pretty simple. And then maybe down the road you send them a coupon that you found or whatever it is, or a gift card for a special dinner on their anniversary or something like that, depending on what level client it is. But this is nice to have this type of information and put that into your KV core or your CRM. All right. And utilize that. All right. So I like using that. But the bottom line is, even if you're taking a quick phone call, you got to find out who they are, what they want, when they're moving, where they're buying, how they're going to buy, and why they're looking to move. So it's really simplified in just those things. If you kind of know those 6 things, you have a pretty good idea of where to start, right? And then all of these interview questions, it breaks the ice as well. Maybe they're nervous about buying a house. They want to buy a house, but it seems overwhelming to them. But you're just kind of breaking the ice and asking these interviews. the buyer's packet is important, and I always like to put it in a nice EXP folder with my business card in there. I have the buyer's roadmap is a nice colorful circular map of this. You got to get pre-qualified, then you're going to put in an offer, then you're going to go to escrow, and it's on the marketing center, easy to find and download and print off. And I always like to put that in there because a lot of these people don't know the buying process, right? They just simply don't know. So you're just educating them, like, here we are at step 1, and this is going to be step 3, and this is how we're going to get to closing, right? And I explain that whole process to them, and I just remind them, like, hey, when we get under contract, I'll remind you of what's coming up, but I just kind of want to let you know up front, this is what to expect. I do put the 1 to 4 family contract in there from Zip Forms, just so they have it and they understand when I send it them to submit an offer, maybe they've looked it over. All right. I don't spend too much time explaining everything in there, but I go, hey, we'll talk about it, when we start filling out a contract and we find a house. All right. But at least they have a hard copy. And then that they can walk away from that meeting going, oh, look what I got, this fancy thing. Right. So I think that is super helpful. Explain the funnel process. All right. And again, all these processes, step 1 through 10, cover the 4 fears that most buyers have. And we'll wrap that up at the end here. But we're not going to miss anything. All right. I understand that you don't want carpet in your house. And I understand that you want shutter blinds only. And I understand that you only want, marble countertops. But if we try to limit that on our search, we're going to miss out on all types of properties. So I explained to them, when I'm setting up the MLS, I'm going to keep it very wide open, right? I'm only going to show you 3 bedrooms because you need at least a 3-bedroom. I'll show you 4, but I won't show you 2. So we could definitely set that parameter, all right? I know you only want 2,000 square feet or larger. Okay, we can set that parameter, all right? But we're going to keep it as wide open. I'm not going to mention anything about carpet and set such narrow parameters that we're going to miss things. And they're, of course, they're like, yeah, that sounds great, and then you won't get the response later going, Tony, why are you sending me these crappy, houses? I told you I didn't want this and this and this. Well, if you remember from our first meeting, hey, we said we're going to keep it wide open so we don't miss out on anything. All right. I talked to them about the 90% rule, right? No matter how long we look, we could be 2 years looking for the perfect house. It just doesn't exist. All right. So if we're walking a house and you go, man, this is like 90% there, well, you might want to consider putting in an offer. All right. And also talk to them about what that means as far as financial commitment. Hey, you can put in an offer. You can put in all the offers you want. You don't owe a penny until it's accepted. All right. I mean, you could put in 5 offers. And then now if all of them are accepted, then yeah, we need to talk about the option money and earnest money in the first 3 days of contract, but it doesn't hurt to put in an offer. Don't go home and, let me think about it, because guess what? Somebody yesterday was here and they put in an offer and it's already been accepted. You already missed out. All right. So we talk about the MLS and how wide open it's going to be. We ask them if they're interested in new construction. Some people are, some people aren't. All right. But we're going to keep that as an option. We're going to tell them, and do so. We're going to look for sale by owners. All right. They're not on the MLS, but I have a way, sneaky Zillow way of finding for sale by owners, right? And for sale by owner websites, to find other properties that some people are missing out on. And ask them if they started looking. More than likely, they've probably already started looking on Realtor or Zillow on their own, all right? And they already have some things that they like, and they're going to send them to you, and you're going to look them up because you're a great agent, and you're going, 99% of those are already under contract because Zillow hasn't updated anything. And that's why we need to put you on the MLS, and that's why you hired me. All right. So that's the funnel process. All right. Scale of 1 to 10 as far as their timeline. I don't use the scale, but that's the wording that they use. But I definitely ask them about timeline. All right, are you renting right now, or do you need to sell your house? All right, if you're selling your house, do you need a lease back? Right? Do you? When is your lease up? If you're renting an apartment, all right, when is your last payment, rental payment? Are you okay to overlap 1 month of rent and mortgage? Talk to them about if we get under contract, all right, in October, all right, we're going to close in November, and your first payment is actually not going to be till January. All right. So then we can look at that timeline. All right. So whatever month you close in, hopefully y'all know this, and if you don't, that's okay. But whatever month you close in, that following month, you do not have a mortgage payment. It's the month after that that you have your first mortgage payment. All right. Even if you close on the 1st of October, you're not going to make a payment until December 1st. All right. So now you have that little buffer as to, okay, now we know the exact timeline of when we really are going to be searching hard and trying to get something under contract. All right. So that's super important. And then talk to them about the new construction timeline. About a year ago, it was like, oh, it takes about 6 months. Not so anymore. If my house closes in February, it'll be a 10-month process from when I signed the contract till I move in. All right. My parents, I think, was an 11-month process. I have a client right now it's not going to be done until March, hopefully. So they sold their house, did well, and they were okay moving into a rental property, for 10 months, a year, until their house was ready. All right. So all those timelines are really important to help your client out and guide them. Dream house exercise. All right. It just says dream house, but if you ask anybody, hey, what's your dream house? They're like, Cancun, beach house, waterfront. Like, but is that realistic right now? They're probably not looking for their dream house right now. So I talk about, in a perfect world, what kind of house do you want to move into right now? What are you looking for? If everything worked out perfectly, what would you really want? All right. Sometimes you have to guide them. And I heard somebody else talking about this, how millennial buyers right now, they're like, what do you want in a house? I just need a backyard for my dog. and nothing else matters to them, right? For me, I know that I really like a covered back patio, all right? And like those are certain things that I want, all right? And then other things my wife wants, all right? So find out what they want. If they don't know, start guiding them. How important is the kitchen to you? Do you need a gas stove or an electric stove? Do you want a 2-story or 1-story? Blah, blah. Help them out if they don't know. And what is their pain and pleasure? All right, find out. Hey, we're in a 2-bedroom apartment right now, and we got to get a 3-bedroom. We need more space. Okay, well, that's a pain. Like they're telling me clearly that they need a 3-bedroom. All right, and etc. Or I would love to have an island kitchen. Okay, well, we're not going to narrow down the search that way, but I know that if I see something pop up, then we're going to jump on it. All right, what is more important to them? All right, and then you're gathering their criteria. All right, so I've been listening a lot to Neil Mathwig, and he's like, you should know the criteria of every single client you're working with. And now you're playing matchmaker. All right, you're playing matchmaker of going, oh, I just saw this house that my friend just listed. It has all these things in the perfect location for my client, Christina. All right, and let me call Christina and go, hey, found you the perfect house. And like, just thought about you. So start matching that up, right? Know everybody's criteria. So far, let's go ahead and take a little break before we get to the last 3. Any questions or comments or experiences, Christina?
Yeah, I had a question about, go back to, oh my gosh, where was it? What you hand them, that one.
Yeah.
What about the buyer's rep? When do you do that?
I think I do put it in there. I don't get pushy about them signing anything. what I
Right.
tell them is I go, here's the buyer's rep agreement, and it explains that, I'm going to be working for you and with you. And I'm going to send you an electronic copy for you to sign. You could get them to sign it right then and there if you prefer that. I just never get too pushy about that. And it's also, you have to kind of feel that out. Are they going to be weirded out of signing something, right then and there? But yeah, I should have put that in there. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and put it in here.
Because at least they're looking at it, even if they don't sign it that day, they have it and you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Hey, Tony.
Yep.
Yeah, Eli here, man. You're bringing up some great things here. And so a lot of what you're saying on those questions is building the relationship and building that trust. But it's also qualifying them. And so I just want to add to some of those questions are just kind of managing the expectation, because you talked about, what is it you want in a house, or so on and so forth. Great questions to ask, or at least go over just the expectation of what they need in regards to earnest money, option money.
Yep.
I can't, and I learned this the hard way. Months ago, I had a lady, educated person. She sounded like she knew what she's talking about. Drove out to New Braunfels. She's applying for a VA loan, looking at half a dozen houses, she said, yeah, I think I want to put an offer on this. Then I started talking through the process of the inspection, and she's like, I'm going to need money for an inspection. It's like, yeah, and you're going to need option money and earn it. Well, my lender said I didn't have to pay anything because I've got a VA loan. Yeah. I was like, no. So, and I made a few mistakes like that.
Yeah.
And, there's others where I've kind of laid it out and they've got the deer caught in the headlight look, and then they don't call you back because they just don't have any money.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so you ask those questions because you want to solidify that relationship, but it's also, to qualify them. Are these people ready? And you don't shut the door if they're not. I've got a list of people that are saving money, restoring credit. I drip on them, I contact them, and they're going to be ready, whether it's several months from now or even a couple of years from now. But you don't want to burn that. And but I'm glad I know, because I've wasted a lot of time, Dad, with folks who are just not ready.
Yeah, absolutely. I bring up a great point. We'll definitely be talking about that here on step 9. But yeah, you definitely are going through this, and you get to okay, do you have this and this and this? And most of the time they're going to be, yeah, okay, I expected that, and I'm ready to go. But especially if you're doing, op city, like I know you are, or like online leads or those type of things, you're going to get a wide range of people from, yes, I'm ready to go, I know what I need, and no, I don't have $100 to my name, or whatever it is. I need help. Then like, okay, great. Well, let's put you on a plan. Let's set you up with a credit repair person. All right. And we'll stay in touch. And oh, by the way, who do you know that's looking to buy or sell, in the next 6 months? I'm going to help you out, and I'm going to be there along the way. But do you have anybody that you could throw my way that's ready to go right now? So I love what you said about that. If you could pile up deals that are 6 months out, a year out, for me, that just makes me feel way more comfortable knowing, hey, I already have something lined up. I have money coming in 6 months from now. All right. And so yeah, great point. Thanks, man. Number 8, what's and whys. This is kind of a continuation really of the dream house, right? They're going to tell you, I want this, I want that, I want this, and you're going to be writing those things down. All right. In fact, Ninja Selling tells you to give them the pen and paper and for them to write it down. All right. So that they're part of the process. I've done it both ways. It's totally whatever you want to do. But the dream house, and then this is continuation, like I said, but the whys are what's most important, right? When you ask them, well, why do you not want a two-story house? All right. Well, my dad's going to be living with us and he's elderly and he can't get, oh, well, now you just dug a little bit deeper and now you know a little bit more information about their living situation and who's going to be in the house with them and those type of things. All right. So ask why. It's perfectly okay for you to ask why. And at this point in the process, more than likely they're not going to have a shield up and go, well, why are you asking that? They're just going to be like, well, this is the reason. I really want a big backyard because I have 5 dogs that run around. Oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. All right. So it reveals their pain and pleasure. All right. And then let them dominate the time of possession. All right. So you're just going to want to ask questions. And we talked about this last week, I believe, is your next question is embedded in their answer. All right. So however they answer, you're going, oh, well, why do you want that? Or, oh, that's important to you. Okay. And you acknowledge those things. And again, that's just building that rapport so that they feel great with you. Right. Speaking of, I just want to share an experience is I did this very similar situation interview with a client that I had never met. I met him face to face on the day of closing. And he was moving in from Indiana. All right. He was referred to me through a mutual friend. We talked about everything. I set him up a search. I did some showings for him. He ended up buying a new build, and everything was great. And now his wife, loves me, and she recommends me on Facebook and this and that, and like screams from the rooftops my name. And it's like, wow, that's pretty crazy. And I barely know this woman, but obviously there was some kind of connection that we established early on that she felt good about everything. The cash or loan, this is obviously not just, hey, are you paying cash or you need a loan? Most of the people you'll find probably are going to do a loan, especially with interest rates being so low. I know several people that have plenty of cash, but they don't want to spend it because the interest rates are so low. All right. So they take that loan out. Have they spoken to a lender? All right. No, I need a lender. Okay, great. I have several awesome lenders to recommend to you. I'll get them in touch with you. Is that okay? Yeah, of course. Sounds great. Right. How much do they plan on putting down? That's pretty important. Maybe they know, maybe they don't know. All right. The old school way of, oh, well, you have to put 20% down. We all know that that's not true. In fact, that's pretty rare in my experiences. All right. But you could put as little as 3.5% down on an FHA. You can even go conventional on a 5% down. All right. And the nice thing about conventional is, yeah, you put a little bit more down, but you get to that 20% pretty much paid into the loan. Now you can get rid of your insurance, your mortgage insurance, right? And that's going to lower but if you go FHA, that mortgage insurance is going to be there for the life of the loan, and explain to them the difference. Like, I'm not a big mortgage person. I don't know all the ins and outs, but I know some basic information to make me sound a lot smarter than I am. All right. And I go, yeah, my lender will explain that more in depth, but think about that if you don't know how much you want to put down. All right. Makes you look good when you say those type of things. Do they need help with closing costs? This is where I start introducing the costs that are involved, right? Everyone's like, oh, well, I just need a down payment. I got my 5% down payment ready to go. All right. Everything's good. But oh, closing cost is another $6,000 to $8,000 on top of that. Yeah, that's closing costs. Those are prepaids. Those are insurance. Those are taxes, etc. that they collect. If you don't have that, then we might need to ask for all of it and helping to close the deal, or we ask for a portion of it. So find out how much cash they need or have. All right. Do they not have very much cash? Well, that doesn't mean the deal's not done. Maybe they qualify for down payment assistance. All right. I would still encourage you to get them in touch with a lender and I call that lender and go, hey, look, my client, they want to buy this house. They're excited, but they're going to need some assistance. Do you think they might qualify for down payment assistance? okay, let me look into it, right? And a good lender will do that for you. And man, talk about somebody that doesn't really have the cash to close a deal, but somehow you work with them and get them in a house. How appreciative are they going to be, right, for you? That's going to be big. Do they have money for inspections? All right. Hey, an inspection is about $500 to $600. That's one of the first things I mention as far as the expense of getting into a house, right? And that's going to need to be done in the first. Right now, I'm doing 5-day options. All right. So within the first 5 days of being under contract, you're going to have to pay $500 on top of your earnest money and on top of your option money. Oh, by the way, once that inspection's done, if you back out of the deal, you're not getting refunded. That money's gone. Are you okay with that? All right. So educating them again of that expense, talking to them about the appraisal. All right. That's a little bit, probably about halfway through the 30-day process. And the lender will order that for them and do all that. But again, that's another $500-600. All right. And explain to them that's part of the closing cost type of thing. All right. And explain to them the timeline of the earnest money and option money. As soon as we get under contract and it's executed, now we have a 3-day timeline to put down 1% of the purchase price and to put down $50 to $100 on option money or more. All right. And to order the inspection. So we need all that money now. All right, ready to go if we're putting in offers. And most
Can I
of the
jump
time,
on this?
yep, yeah,
Okay, hold on. Let me turn this stupid phone down. So yeah, I'm sorry. I've been on the phone helping customers, but I did hear you talk about the 3-day time frame to get your option money and your earnest money in.
yep,
And I just want to emphasize to all the agents that it's imperative that you communicate that to your clients, and preferably in writing, either through a text or email, that you explain that to them, and that it has to be at the title company by 5 p.m. on the 3rd day at the very latest. Because I had a situation where I didn't explain that well enough, and my client did not get the earnest money and option money in time, and they wanted to back out of the contract, and there was potential for them to lose like $8,000 in earnest money because this was an expensive property. And luckily the sellers had another offer that they accepted, a backup offer, and it never became a thing. But just to save yourself a little trouble in the future, agents, just make sure that you really emphasize, like, this has to be done. And I would do it in writing, just a CYA.
yeah. No, I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that. But we've made plenty of mistakes, all of us. And I think I shared one of my mistakes up in Dallas with a few people, and I'll probably share that later with y'all. But you feel terrible. You don't mean to do it. Maybe it's just a lack of communication, and we're all going to make mistakes. But it's like, man, it's a terrible feeling. So yeah, just try to take this in. Try to and if you forget, or if you go, oh my God, I got something in contract, what do I do next? You could obviously refer to this video that we're recording, or just pick up the phone and call me, call Jim, call Mark, call Alan, call anybody and go, hey, what do I do next? Right? Because I remember filling out my first contract, and it literally took me like an hour and a half, and I literally got a migraine from how stressed out I was. I'm like, oh, did I do this right? And it freaked me out. And now I'm like, well, I could knock one out in like 10 minutes. All right. You start figuring that out pretty quickly. But thanks for sharing, Jim. And it is important because, again, like Eli said, there's a lot more cost than just going, I have my 3.5% down payment, I'm ready to go buy a house. It's like, hey, there's more finances that need to be in order to make that happen. Number 10, this is pretty much going to wrap everything up, but it's what happens next, right? We've talked about the process. We've talked about everything we've gone through, what they want in a house, where they want to buy, how they're going to buy it, all these things. Well, now when we leave this meeting, I'm going to go home and set up a search for you. It's going to be an automated search, and I say that up front so that they don't get offended by, Tony, you sent me this thing. I'm like, remember, it's automated. All right. And and then I connect them with the lender, right? And make sure if they need that. Sometimes they've already been pre-qualified through Rocket Mortgage or something like that. But I think this is also important. I explain to them how to like or mark a property that they like. All right. So they're getting these things, and like some people will go, Tony, this property at 911, Smith Street is what I want to see. I'm like, okay, well, how about you just hit the green button and it will automatically go to me, and I could easily look it up and set it up. So I explained to them, I was like, and I also tell them, don't mark the ones that you're not interested in, because I don't want to get all those darn emails popping up, not interested in these 25, properties that you've sent me. Okay, I don't care what you're not interested in. I'm cared in what you're interested in, right? So I tell them, if you like something, even if you kind of like something, go ahead and mark the green box that says interested. It'll go only to me, directly to me, and then I'll contact you about possibly setting up a time to go see it. All right. So then we set up the showings. All right. At the showings, we obviously talk to them about, hey, what do you like? What do you not like? Is this the 90% rule? All right. If it's 90% right, you might want to consider putting in an offer. All right. Also depending on the timeline. And oh, by the way, I've already run some comps, or I did a quick search on RPR, and it looks like it's priced right, or it looks like it's priced high. Maybe we could get it under this price. So I'm going to run some comps and make sure that the price is reasonable. All right. And then the offer is made, right? You're going to drop the offer. And the negotiables, right, are obviously price, the terms, earnest money, down payment, financing. All right. I had somebody put down $25,000 in earnest money, and I explained to them, I said, you only need to put down 1% of the purchase price, right? You only need to put down like $5,000. No, but and I said, okay, well, if you really want this house, I mean, that's obviously a very strong offer, and you're risking a lot, so that they're going to highly consider you. And he was okay doing that, all right? So you can strengthen your offer by offering more earnest money, putting more on the line. All right. Your closing dates, can you close, in a month? Is it going to take longer than that? Your option period is a negotiable, right? When I first started, it's like, oh, standard is 10 days. I don't know if we'll ever go back to a 10-day option, right? Maybe we're going to go back to a 7-day, but I recently have been doing 5 days. And the seller, that makes it more appealing, right, to the seller, and maybe they're going to accept that. The inclusion and exclusions. I haven't dealt with that too much, but obviously say, hey, I want this or I don't want that. All right. Contingencies, is it contingent on getting the loan, inspections and repairs? All right. And it obviously, does it need to appraise? All right. Or you could waive the appraisal. And that's a whole, like, another class to talk about, like, what you can do to make your offer better to get accepted. If you're struggling with that, let's talk, and maybe we'll do a class on just that, how to make your offer better. And then we're under contract. Once we're under contract on the house, what does that mean? Can I back out of it? When can I back out of it if I want to? We've already talked about the earnest money, option money timeline. You want to educate them on that. Educate them about the inspection and the option period. And during this period, we're going to negotiate repairs, is pretty standard. All right. And then once we're out of option period, I like blatantly tell them, hey, I'm gonna check in on you weekly, but now you're like pretty much one-on-one with that lender. Like, whatever the lender tells you to do, make sure you get your paperwork in. All right. Like, the lender kind of takes it from here. And obviously reach out to me if you have questions about that, and I can, mediate all of that. But we're just trying to get this thing approved, right? Talk to them about the appraisal. If it comes in low, what does that mean? If it comes in high, what does that mean? All right. And then the final walkthrough, obviously set that up, and then you do your closing. All right. And then remind them, most people know this, but remind them not to run anything on credit within that window of you being under contract. All right. Some people are like, I'm getting a new house. I want to go buy new furniture and I want to go buy this and that. It's like, that's great. As long as you have the cash to close and as long as you have the cash to buy that, please do not finance any of that because you're going to ruin it. You're going to lose out on this house if you go finance stuff. If you go try to buy a car right now, that's not good. All right. So again, all of this kind of goes back to covering the 4 greatest fears. All right. We're not going to lose out on the home, or we may. I'll straight up tell them, like, hey, a lot of my clients right now it's taken them several offers to get in a house because of the market. All right. We're going to try our very best. We're going to, make our strongest offer, and I'm going to encourage you to do that. But we're not going to miss anything. All right. We're going to make sure that funnel, and we're keeping that search wide open, so where we don't miss anything. Right. And I'm going to make sure that I run a comp and show you all the numbers of what houses are selling for in the neighborhood, and making sure you're not paying too much. Right. Or if you're getting a great deal and you need to just go in at full asking price and run with it. Right. And is there something wrong with it? That's why you hire an inspector. You don't have to hire an inspector, but I would highly encourage you to spend $500 on this $500,000 house you're buying. Like, you want to make sure that it's good to go. All right. So that's the 10-step buyer process. All right. I hope you got something out of that. Questions, comments, anything that you'd like to add?
I don't want to add anything. Is there a way we can get a hold of this? Like,
Yeah.
email it or something, so that way just set it. Because I'll be honest, my very first buyer consultation I had, I was at a different brokerage. I felt like the reason I didn't land it either was because I missed a lot of points that were on here. So it's like, it's good to see, like, to hear and everything. So I just want to see maybe if we're able to get it so I can look at it more as well.
If you can just send me your email address. All right. And what I'm going to do is, obviously this video is going to be up there, but I will share this PowerPoint with you. All right. So you can have it ready to go. And I'll also share this document that is pretty much ripped right out of Ninja Selling. All right. So this is the 10-step. And again, when I go to these appointments, this is a 2-pager with this buyer interview on the back. And I just print it front and back. And I put it in that folder that I'm going to give them. And I sit down and open the folder and I pull this out and I just start writing notes as I'm asking questions. So yeah, I can definitely share this with you. Just go ahead and shoot me your email address. Anybody else?
Hey, real quick, Tony, just to add on those last things, because, as you know, we're in a seller's market, and so anything we can do to set ourselves apart. You don't see a lot of buyers doing it now. It was probably more popular. I mean, they're still doing it, but the whole little letter with the offer.
Yeah.
I actually wrote out a handful of letters, and my buyers have no problem at all. I just kind of go through it with them. They said, "Oh, I love it." I'll have them text me a picture of the family, and I'll tag it onto that letter. And I'm telling you, I've got deals, and the listing agent tells me they went with yours because they love the letter. And it wasn't even my idea. Most good ideas, you get from somewhere else, but it's super easy to put with an offer. You have the letter made, just paste a picture on there, PDF it, and just send it with the offer. Another quick ideas here. I had somebody send an offer on a house that I had, and under special provisions, they said buyer agrees to instruct lender to order appraiser within 5 days of executed contract, or within 3 days of executed contract, depending on what the option was. But you get a realtor who's stuck on a property trying to get appraisal done. They're trying to get it scheduled, especially if it's outside of the San Antonio area. That can make the difference. Just, hey, our lender's going to order the appraiser. It doesn't cost anything extra. So that helps. Another thing, I got an offer on a property, and under special provision, the buyer agent wrote, buyer will have food of choice delivered by a food delivery service for sellers on moving day. And they thought that was the coolest thing, and as a realtor, I'd be willing to pay for that just to get a deal.
Yeah.
So anything you can do, man, to make the difference, to set yourself apart. I thought that was pretty creative for some realtors out there. Just thought I'd share that.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, I've definitely heard of the letter. All right, and it's good, and I've used it. We still lost out because, good Lord, it was crazy. But it definitely works. I've heard multiple stories of that. But those other two are very creative, and I've never heard of those. So thank you for sharing. The ordering, the appraisal, pretty much right out of the gate. I mean, what does that tell you, the seller? That tells the seller that this buyer is serious, right? Like this, they're not messing around. They're not like, maybe I'll buy it. All right. So that's really cool. And then, and providing food. Who doesn't like food, right? Just send them a bunch of tacos and maybe they'll accept your offer. All right. But, so yeah, that's cool. Thanks for sharing, man. Well, cool. That's going to wrap up today. I hope you got something out of that